Hello guys, welcome to this watercolour painting tutorial. I hope you enjoy watching. So here I'm just starting by wetting the area I'm going to be painting. I'm using a warm orange shade to start and just filling in the area. The paper is wet so it blends very easily. Going around the windows and the doors just so they stay clean for later on when I fill them in. I'm using the Winsor & Newton cotman watercolours. These paints are really vibrant and they just look great and they are great to work with. I go in with a darker brown shade here for this side of the house to create depth, and I'm also running that along where the roof is. And then I go around the doorways and windows to define those also. I really like this Rowney round brush as the pointy tip allows you to put details in like this and also put down larger washes. It's a very versatile brush, I find. I'm just blending those out slightly just so they're not so harsh. And blending the side of the house to the front to make it look more seamless. Here I'm just wetting the roof. And then I go in with this darker navy shade. I then blend this upwards to create a much lighter tone, and then I take a smaller brush and just remove some of that to create a ridged look in the roof. And then taking this Pro Art brush and just adding details to the roof here. I like using this brush for details like this as it allows me to do it quickly because of the flexibility of the brush. And it's got a very fine tip, which is perfect for these very small details. Okay, so here I have already filled in the house to the left with that dark navy shade that I used on the roof. And here the paper was wet again, and now I'm just darkening it up, basically adding another layer. I've gone around those windows the same as I did with the first house. I'm now going to be adding in the foliage down on the bottom of the painting, so I'm just wetting that again just to allow me to have that blurred effect. First put down the path in just a mix of black and white. And here I'm using a nice warm green, just adding in those leaves, very random brush marks. I find with this section I did have to re-wet and rework quite a bit. I'm not too practiced on this kind of painting. I find I'm still trying to work on my technique when it comes to this, especially buildings and their surroundings, finding out exactly how to make them look the way I want, because with this painting I didn't really know how it would turn out. I'm just trying to figure it out as I go, to be honest. It didn't turn out perfect, but I like the final look. I found if I did it again I would do it slightly differently, but like you say, I am still learning, and next time I would probably add this green layer in at a similar time to when I'm painting in the buildings, just so I don't have that issue where I had the dark navy and then I realised I had to put the lighter green over it with watercolour. That can be difficult, so it's not too bad here. I did manage to remove some of the navy, but I did need to plan that better. But as I say, for next time I will know. So here I'm just adding in more green, and because it was wet in the first place it just blends really nicely. Just adding some small details just there. Here I went in with a darker shade, and this is to add dimension to those leaves. I think this looked really nice, just really brought out the shape of all of those leaves and really brought it more to life. Okay, now I'm going to work on the top section there, which I will also be filling with foliage. So I went for a slightly more olivey green colour here, just to break it up slightly and create a different tone. And yep, the paint laid really nicely due to the wet base, and I now added a little bit of a darker green also, just for dimension again. I go in here again to the bottom and add a bit more of the dark that was still on my brush, and then I go back up to the top and add a little bit more there. Then used a spray bottle just to dampen it, as I find it had dried up slightly. think I did add a little bit too much water here. As you can see, my board is on a tilt and it did start to run. So I just removed the bulk of that paint just so it didn't start running down the whole painting. But I still think the effect was actually really nice. I'm just adding a little bit more depth here, also around the windows. And then again, just removing some of the paint as it had run a little bit too much. And here's when I start to block in the windows. This is when it starts to come together. I use that dark navy shade again. Just make sure to use a light hand here and be precise, because I know in the past I have filled them in quite haphazardly and it just doesn't look as good. So I make sure to spend some time just making sure the windows and the doors look nice and as precise as I can get them, because it really does pay off in the final result. I just keep on deepening up the areas that I feel need it throughout, particularly that doorway. I'm just filling in the final windows here. Adding a few details to these windows on the left. Now onto the ones in the orange house. I'm just adding some details there, and I also darken the windows slightly on this side. Okay, so here I go back to the Pro Art brush here, which is always my favourite for these very small details. It allows me to be precise when creating very thin lines. Here I'm just defining around the windows. I'm just adding details on the windows just to define them further. Here I'm just defining that lamp, just using the same brush as I used for the windows just now. Then I'm going to add a little balcony in front of this window here. I think while I'm just adding these details, I wanted to speak about the foliage that I'd added in. I think as it's gone on, the painting obviously dried. I do like how it looks much better now. I think it's all blended really well into each other and looks a lot more soft, which is nice. Here I put in some railings and still using that Pro Art brush, which is perfect for these details. Also allows you to create a nice texture, which you saw just here on the path. And then I go into adding the tree on the right hand side using a large angled brush just to block that in. And I go in here with the spray bottle just to wet that area again, so I'm able to create some softer lines up here in the tree. Switch back to the Pro Art brush for this particular purpose, painting the branches. I think this is when it came together for me, the painting. When I put that tree in, I think it just tied it together. Here I'm just adding more branch details. Blended the base of the tree just so it wasn't just sat there, it kind of faded into the painting. Then adding a bit more darker green down at the base here, just to fill in those gaps, and just adding a bit more definition to the house. So I'm just putting in a little bit of detail to that lamp and also a detail to the top of this window. And then I add in a few flowers down here to the foliage, just for those final details coming up to finishing the painting. Okay, now I'm just peeling off the masking tape to get those nice clean edges. I really like this technique of using masking tape as it makes it look like it's in a little frame, and I think it just looks so sweet. Okay, so I'll just show you a closer look of where we were at this stage. I really liked how it turned out, but I did decide to add something else to it. So yeah, here I'm just adding some paint spatters with the white paint to create that snowy effect. I thought it would look really nice. I did decide to take it down a little bit after this, as you will see in a second. I really hope you guys like this video. I like how it turned out in the end. I think it looks like a little Christmas card or something. Very sweet. I do hope you will like the video and leave me a comment. Also, I would greatly appreciate it if you would subscribe to my channel. Okay, thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye now.